Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of the Food and Farm Show. I'm your host, Gil Dominguez. Today we're coming to you from Greg's Organics, probably the closest farm to downtown Grass Valley that you're going to get right here on Main Street. And this year, besides planting in his outdoor fields, Greg is constructing a 72-foot high tunnel that he got from our good friend Ray Diggins over at Grizzly Hill Farms. You're going to see some of the construction of that high tunnel, as well as talk to Greg Weber himself as he describes why he's making the high tunnel and how that's going to help his operation. Then later on in the show, we're going to be going over to a Sierra Harvest event where they had a seminar on weeds. Now you may be surprised to hear that all weeds are not bad. Some of the weeds you just want to let them grow, others you can make tea, some you need to eradicate. We're going to learn all about that from Amigo Bob, organic farmer here in Nevada County, and Susan Gouveia from the Society of Garden Goddesses. So we have a jam-packed show for you here today. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go meet Greg Weber. Okay, joining us here on the Food and Farm Show is Greg Weber of Greg's Organics. Greg, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Now, you've been farming tomatoes here for how long?
This is my 5th season at this site on West Main Street.
And now, besides going into the ground on your lower and upper fields, you're bringing in a 72-foot high tunnel. How's that going to help the operation?
Weather volatility, earlier product to market, later product to market. So give me some kind of predictability.
And, of course, we've been documenting the implementation of the high tunnel here on this property. What was probably one of the biggest surprises to you once you decided to put up the high tunnel, and then today we actually saw the cover go over the top?
Surprises with the project? Just how involved it was to put it up. It took longer than I thought. Now on the next one it'll go much faster because I have an understanding of how to do it. But it was Ray really helped me out, so I'm thankful to have his guidance through the project.
And as we saw, it was quite the project, spanning a couple weeks from the time you pounded the poles in to the time today when we put the cover over. But how are you feeling about it right now?
Great. It's the the last step here, and hopefully by maybe Friday or Saturday I'll have some product in here and start it growing. And it's going to be 80 on Friday and Saturday, so good timing.
All right, well, listen, we'll be checking back in with you periodically to see how you're going to till it up and put the water lines in. But fascinating project right here at Greg's Organics, probably the closest farm to Grass Valley downtown of anybody else.
Yes, I believe that to be true.
Well, as you can see, the work on Greg's high tunnel is coming along nicely. Pretty soon he'll be plowing the ground in there and planting his tomatoes. We'll come back for another visit and update you on the work on this. Time for our first break of the day. When we come back, it's off to the Sierra Harvest Weed Seminar with Susan Gouveia and Amigo Bob. You're watching the Food and Farm Show.
Anything Green Hydroponics is your source for hydro systems, grow lights, and soils. Anything Green offers a complete range of organic nutrients as well as fungicides, miticides, and predatory bugs. Anything Green Hydroponics has just received this year's soil. Get your totes, pallets, or individual bags. Stay tuned for future workshops. It's all at Anything Green Hydroponics.
Hello, I'm Dr. Victoria Tutak, and welcome to Advanced Chiropractic Centers. Are you tired of living with debilitating pain, physically impacting the quality of your life? Here at Advanced Chiropractic Centers, we offer a variety of options. We are a result-driven office devoted to your health care. My name is Dr. T, and I look forward to meeting your health care needs.
I'm Amy Retzler, and I'm co-director of Sierra Harvest, and we are helping to sponsor this event today along with Deer Creek Parent Teacher Club. And Sierra Harvest provides nutrition education about fresh local seasonal foods. We support emerging farmers that want to grow food in sustainable ways. And we also teach people how to grow food right in their own backyards. We serve over 6,000 school children with our Farm to School program in the county. We've trained over 28 young local farmers to grow food for this community. And we've held over 100 community events that have been attended by over 6,500 people. So welcome to the school that my kids have gone to, and I'm really excited to be a part of this today.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Make Peace with the Weeds workshop, and I so much appreciate you coming out on a Sunday afternoon. I know there's other things we could be doing, but I'm super excited about the workshop just because I started eating weeds as a kid, and it's all of a sudden turned into, oh my gosh, I get to speak on it, and I think it's really beneficial that we hear today's message. So anyways, my name's Susan Gouveia, and I live here in Pacific Grove, share time in both spots. And I have I started a community called the Garden Goddesses about 5 years ago. So we're a group of women that get together and teach about sustainable and organic cooking and gardening. And I've been gardening since about 2. My parents said I used to make mud pies and actually eat them, and so I haven't,
Me too.
Yeah?
We have something in common.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nutrients in the mud if it's good mud.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been gardening ever since, loving weeds, loving nature. Always got teased by people because I was always the weird one out in the field picking weeds and educating people like, you could eat this like salad. And so I'd get everyone to munch on these random weeds. And yeah, so here I am teaching about weeds.
Well, first off, thanks for being here and having an interest in a subject that's near and dear to my heart. This is a weed. This is Scotch broom. Anybody got it? Oh, yeah. Okay. So the first things first with weeds is determining which are your friends, which are your allies, and which are your mortal enemies. This one on my farm is a mortal enemy. 15 years into it now, I just cleaned up our road, which used to take me days of removing it with a root jack, which is a tool you can leverage onto a big one and pop it out like a crowbar, and pulling out the little ones. That's sometimes, well, literally, I spent days and days, maybe in the weeks category in 2000. This place was virtually infested all over my place. Yesterday, it took me about 15 minutes. Okay, so you can win the war on this weed without any chemicals. So the first thing, and Susan alluded to that, is identify who are your allies in the weed world. This is great eating, folks. These dandelion are all wonderful. They make a great coffee substitute, the roots do. Bees feed on them. They're an alternate. They're low growing. They don't invade. Look, they're just there. The only downside is if you got them in a lawn with kids, then they got to watch out for the bees. But that's only for a couple, 3 weeks while they bloom, which if you're paying attention, you don't need to have them out there then. Anyway, that's a weed, but lots of people spray for that weed or spend a whole bunch of time getting rid of that weed. You have to first identify, is this an issue? Is that an issue? Is that in your way?
It's pretty.
Okay, so I would say right off the bat, it qualifies as pretty. And then it's multi-purpose. And it's low growing, doesn't dry up and be a big fire hazard, doesn't kill the kids, no animals die from it. Yes, a few bees go on it. That's probably good for the bees though, eh? As long as the kids don't step on it. Now, here's another one. I mean, we just got all kinds of plants. People spray for this one, Poa annua. It's an annual grass. This one here is finishing its cycle right now. It's flowering. It's the end of its year. Why would you worry about a plant that does this now? That plant ain't doing anything bad, is it? Slow growing, it's filled in the space, keeps the other things big from growing, and it's finished for the year. It's an annual. Makes seed and calls it a day. That's happening right now. March is the month most of these plants make that. That's why these are flowering. They're calling it a day. As soon as something's in flower, that's the end of its growth cycle. Or from 99.9% of plants. It's not true with everything, but most things. So you can look around and find all kinds of plants in here you could get agitated about, but if I was looking at anything in this entire environment that I would pay any attention to, it would be the Scotch broom. All right, a couple last things. So I use all kinds of tools on my farm. These are on me or around me all the time. All right, this catches little stuff, easy, and little trimming, walking around, little thin skin stuff. Oh, I'm gonna do some little pruning or harvest something, take it to the house. This takes on the bigger stuff. These are Italian, they're better than those things they sell at the local garden stores. I had to import them myself. I'm gonna start selling them because they're so much better. This is a lopper, a really good one from the same company. It can take out that big whomp. Here, let me demonstrate. Oh, that's not the right thing to do with a Scotch broom. Where was that big old stump somebody left out here? Right there. It's that easy. No effort. I can do a 3-inch one that easy. Now, I wouldn't do that for Scotch broom because that's just causing it to come back again. I just point out that's a tool I use a lot. One last but not least, it's something big and nasty. Almost nothing survives this one. Plus, it gives you a good workout on your arms. This is a style that was invented in Japan. It's made in Italy. It cuts in both directions. It's extremely efficient. You can cut a 6-inch green living tissue down in, I don't know, 2 minutes, minute and a half, going back and forth steady.
Okay, so right now I'm going to talk about the benefits of weeds and the edible weeds. And this is one of my favorite weeds that grows down on the Central Coast, and I actually have it growing in my garden. It's a New Zealand spinach. Amigo, do you know anything about the New Zealand spinach?
Yes, it's an amaranth. It's a very healthy, very wonderful plant. It's really high in iron and phosphorus.
It's amazing, and it's a great alternative to spinach because it doesn't get the leaf miners that I struggle with my spinach plants.
Which is a bug that gets in the leaf in the spinach and makes it, at best, unappetizing.
Yeah. So anyways, I went down to the Central Coast again, and right by the ocean this grows, and what happens is the salt dusts it, and it gives it this salty flavor, and it's one of my favorite things to pick while I'm walking the coast. And on my last visit, I noticed that my favorite park that I go to is just loaded with this, and when I went down this time, it was all sprayed, and I was so sad because it was like this beautiful ground cover, and I'd bring all my friends and we'd eat the leaves, and now it's just all dead. So anyways, I would recommend this one to anybody. This is a fava bean, and you know, I use it to choke out my weeds. I have 4 different garden spaces, and one of my garden spaces, to get rid of the weeds, I tried the cardboard and straw method, and you'll see an example back here. So I just lay down cardboard right before it's going to rain, add straw on top of that, it compacts and kind of glues, and then I don't have any weeds, and it's been like that for a couple years. So that's been really effective, and it hardly took me any time at all. It looks a little messy if you don't cover it with straw, but that's one of my favorite ways to deal with the weeds. And then the other is just choking them out. You know, I plant arugula, mustard.
Before you go though, you gotta check some more about your
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all around. I'm just so excited.
Fava bean's got a lot more thing than just smothering the weeds.
Right, okay. So I have one area where I'm just growing all fava beans for a cover crop. So now I don't have any more like little random weeds that aren't useful. So this pulls in, puts nitrogen into the soil. It's a nitrogen fixer, and they grow really big, and the leaves are edible, the flowers are edible, and they grow beans. Yeah, and you cut them down, and you can just lay them on top of your land, and it either prepares new soil or keeps the weeds that you don't want to deal with at bay.
Easy to grow.
Yeah, and they're these big fat beans, so it's like you just plug them in, and you don't have to deal with little seeds. And then my mustard. I mean, is there are these nitrogen fixers, the mustard plants? Okay.
They're calcium and iron accumulators.
Okay.
Makes them healthy.
They're tasty. I love making vegetarian sushi and putting the mustards in my sushi because it takes the place of wasabi. So.
Susan, one quick question. What time of year? In the fall do you plant your fava beans then to be an overwintering?
Pretty much. Yeah, to get like really big plants. I mean, can you plant them now? They just get kind of small. Yeah.
No, you need to sometime around here in September or early October.
So let's see. So another weed I like is chickweed, and this is chickweed. I actually fertilize my chickweed, and this is sort of your standard weed that people spray for. They don't realize it's edible, but it tastes like spinach, and it's just delicious, and it's another superfood that you can either juice or put in salads, and it grows like crazy. It grows in a lot of, you know, when you bring in horse manure, you end up getting a lot of this weed, but it's really easy to deal with and pull. So.
It doesn't get very big. It's those that weeds eat early. It's not, I don't even think of it as a weed.
I know, it's not anymore, but you know,
None of these are weeds, really.
no, they're not. They're, but it's what's advertised to, you know, for companies to spray. And oh, this is my favorite, and the kids' favorite. I have this after-school program for kids, and they always come running home and they gather around my pot of sorrel. This is French sorrel, and it's like the company water cooler. They gather around, they eat these things and chat about their day, and it's just really adorable. So sorrel is really special, and I had a huge box of it, and my laborers that were helping me out, they have been trained that this is a weed, so they pulled all my sorrel plants out, and I came out and I'm like, that's the kids' garden. So, you know, everyone views these plants differently, but I use the sorrel in salads, and I mince it up and put it in meatballs and put it in soup, and it makes this really lemony flavor. So it's super yummy to deal with, and you can also put it in a soup and blend it for a lemony, creamy yumminess. See, and then, all right. So some other favorites. This is cress. Oh, I wanted to check with Amigo on this. This is a peppery plant, but I think there's some really medicinal qualities to the cress plant. And the seeds kind of do this when you go near them. But it's very peppery and yummy.
You call it a cress? K-R-E-S-S.
C-R-E-S-S. Here are nettles, another thing that pops up. So this is a form of nettle, and you have to be careful because they have little spines that will give you a reaction. But to eat them, you just, you know, you can press them like that, but you can saute them. They're another superfood. So I love my nettle plants. Try to keep them all alive. And here's a dandelion. So got that, the root, the flowers and leaves are all edible. And here's the yarrow. And I actually took my front lawn out and replaced it with yarrow because it's really nice to walk on. It's really soft and fuzzy and velvety. And you can make tea, and it's very medicinal. And another thing I've been getting into is making my own fertilizers. And this is a weed you can use to make your own fertilizer. So I take rainwater and put it in here. I have water harvesting tanks. And then I put, you can look in here and see the yarrow leaves. And in 21 days, the yarrow leaves mixed with the rainwater will create a really smelly fertilizer, but it's full of calcium, potassium, nitrogen, all the things your plants love. And this is just like an old cat litter box, or cat litter container.
Do you chop it up?
Nah, I mean, you could like, I mean, maybe, but it'll disintegrate. I'm too lazy. I like fast, easy, you know, no-brainers. So I've just learned to create my own soil. So what I do is I start with newspaper or bags or cardboard, and I wet my area first and get it nice and wet. And then I just, you know, use my junk mail or magazines or whatever and cover the space. And then I add compost, a little bit of compost. I mean, like the quickest and easiest way to do it is you can just put that down and then put compost on top, and then hose it down, and then wait until springtime and maybe start planting in it. But if you want to start your soil from scratch, you want to build your soil with layers. So you'll start with, and Kristen, feel free to help me out because I know you've taught a lot of master gardener classes too. But so I've used different things like alfalfa pellets. You know, these are kind of expensive, and I'm going away from these, but it's a quick, easy alternative, and it's a great green product. I use coffee grounds as a green, you know, because they have the nitrogen in it, and Then sometimes I use my pulled weeds. So I do a layer of compost.
So why are magazines and paper good for the soil?
Well, it suppresses the weeds.
Oh, we're not making the soil work, killing the weeds.
Yeah, I mean, you want to just start. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. Killing the weeds and.
I always thought that the shiny colors was bad. I've always been told
You know, I was
no
going to
shiny
ask
colors.
Amigo about that because I don't know how much, actual color print you should put in. I don't do a lot of it, but
Typically in small amounts, anything breaks down.
okay. Because I notice my worms aren't bothered by it. I do worm composting.
They don't
So-
glow in the dark.
Pardon? They don't glow. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. They do grow pretty fast. But so the other thing you could put down first, I forgot to go over the wood chips. So wood chips, you do, I don't know, you do like a three-inch layer. It's like lasagna gardening. So I don't want to, let's see, make too much of a mess. But you just make the 3-inch layer. And then I have a lot of oak leaves. So compost is kind of breaking down already. So then I add a ton of paper.
I threw that in my pocket.
Oh, that's okay. It looks like trash. So I add my oak leaves and there's some other leaves mixed in and I wet this layer down. So I want to build like about 18 inches if I can, because then it's going to decompose by springtime if I do this in the fall, and then I can just plant right into it. So then I'll do a layer of alfalfa pellets. And it's basically just building a big compost pile, but it's more intentional. And then I'll top it off with more compost. Final layer. And then top it off with I throw straw into my chicken coop and they kind of fortify it with their stuff. So this is fortified straw. I put this on top and when it rains, it decomposes and then in springtime, I have this delicious, yummy, soft soil, which is this. So this is basically, I created this soil and I pulled from it. And it's just, I love the smell of real dirt. You just don't get that when you purchase bought soil. And it just, what it does is it just keeps growing and it builds a soil web and you've got your own homegrown soil. So in the springtime, I just dig in to the mulch and I plant my plants and it's already mulched and fortified and ready to go. So, want to add anything? Yeah?
The only thing is I would be careful to overlap the newspaper and underneath stuff, because if you leave little tiny spaces, the weeds will
Okay,
come up. So
that's a great idea.
And you can get free newspaper behind the Union in the dumpster. That's where I get mine. I just get a truckload full when I go to do a whole area.
So you've had experience just putting newspaper in your
I've done
garden,
newspaper.
right?
Tell you can get it from the dumpster.
Yeah, but you have to time it right because they dump their newspaper twice a day and then they get rid of it, or recycle it or whatever.
Okay.
So if you go and it's empty, just go later that afternoon and there'll be a whole bin full. Yeah, I've done newspaper for years, and you do really have to be careful to overlap.
Yeah, it really is simple. It just takes a mind shift. And like I said, I turned my whole front lawn into an edible garden. Just put the cardboard down, and now I've got deer-resistant plants growing in my front yard and soft yard to walk on. And I just didn't want to water something that wasn't giving back food to me with the drought. So.
On that line, I'll offer something that I've stumbled on. I've always known that for a compost pile, it's good to hold the heat in. Big bales of hay, for instance, well, I didn't have any, but I know where to get free cardboard. So I cover my compost now with cardboard. So it's somewhat of an insulation, but it also keeps it dark, so the earthworms and things can come up closer to the surface. Of course, it holds in
Nice.
the moisture. So it's, it's more or less like what you're saying there. But I have to take it off when I want to add stuff, so it's a little bit of a pain.
Okay. And that brings up a good point because I do add a couple handfuls of worms, and that helps decompose a little quicker and healthier soil. And the other thing I've really had success with is the actual bales of alfalfa straw, but it's like 18 bucks for a bale of it. But you know, I put it around my fruit trees, and my fruit trees loved it, and it builds soil really fast. And I'm not really sure what's more cost effective, this or the straw. But this tends to kind of, when it gets wet, it gets kind of matty and clumpy and sticky. So I think
straw's just adding so much more organic material.
Yeah, I think, and I think this actually has weed seeds in it too. Well, the straw would probably too. But I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Does anybody have any questions or?
So straws, have you experimented with the different kinds, the alfalfa, the wheat, the rice? Do you have a preference? Because you can get a lot of them for $10 a bale.
Yeah, with the rice. I heard the hay straw breaks down faster.
Yeah, it does. The rice straw lasts a lot longer. Yeah, it's there for a really long time, and it's harder to spread. I find it really hard to spread, but it's great for mulching. But I think for this kind of thing, I would use the wheat straw or
the rice straw doesn't have weed seeds over the others, do you?
Yeah,
I use rice straw, and I just bought a huge truckload, and I have a straw yard. And after it's been rained on a few seasons, it's lovely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's just something I just invest in going forward, and I'll get more straw this year, and I'll just keep pulling from the old and adding to the
Nice. Where do you get it?
I just ordered it from the farm supply.
Oh, okay.
At Mont Ridge. And you know, it was like $100 for this guy to come and he stacked it for me.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. And I think it was about $8 a bale, but it's not good new. It's hard to work with, slippery, it flies away. And it did put out a lot of seeds. It puts out
so
a
you're not,
lot.
it's not.
One of the great things about doing the Food and Farm Show is we get to go outside and report on these activities without actually having to do the work like Ray and Greg behind me. Today joining us is also Dino and Zuby, our puppies from our house, and they love running around here on the farm. So thanks a lot for joining us each and every month here on the Food and Farm Show, and we'll see you next month right here. See you then.
That was lovely.
All right, one more time.
Yeah.